Today on the WOW channel, I want to talk about a topic that I feel I have a lot of knowledge about. It's about these wage strike increases in the fast food establishments, specifically McDonald's and a handful of others. Now, my background in food and beverage has put me in their shoes before. I've been behind kitchens for years where I know exactly how hard that job is. But I think the concern is not actually the employees. It's really about the free market and government interference, which really comes down to the idea of socialism and how far government should really get into our business. Now, America was founded on the ideals of a free market. The Constitution really solidified that, and the Bill of Rights then gave it some more stability. But the overarching powers of the federal government has always had an impact over the last 150 years on the way business is done.
Tear down this wall.
For example, if an employee at McDonald's is making minimum wage right now, let's say a round number of $8. Now, that $8 is what that employee sees, but really, they're getting stretched on both ends, meaning that employee has to pay taxes on that $8 an hour. So for every $8 that employee makes, they're actually taking home $6 or $5. The rest is going into taxes, Social Security tax, federal income tax, and depending on where you live, state, county, and local taxes as well. This doesn't even include the sales tax on items that are purchased or the property tax that goes into the land that they own, or at least built into the rent on the condos or apartments or houses that they're staying in. Now, on the flip side, that employer, coming from a standpoint of an entrepreneur, most people don't understand this, that the employer is actually paying closer to like $15 for each one of those $8 employees, just because they have to pay extra insurances and Social Securities on top of each hourly wage. So for the $8 they pay the employee, they have to pay extra taxes just to employ that employee. They have to pay unemployment tax, which is really the most idiocracy of them all. I mean, you're paying a few dollars extra an hour in case you let that employee go. Now, wouldn't it be a good idea if maybe we got rid of that tax and just gave that money straight to the employee? There's your problem right there. If we just got rid of one of those taxes, whether it's Social Security or, now I'm not saying get rid of the Social Security system, I'm just saying on that employer, you're giving him all these hurdles to employ more people. And now you just threw Obamacare on top of it. So these major corporations, I think there's about 300 that actually got exempt from Obamacare. Well, McDonald's is definitely one of them. So for all the small mom and pops, McDonald's doesn't have to pay their employees the same. Not only that, they don't have to give them the same level of coverage that's required in Obamacare. This is a hard fact, and you can see more facts about this on RobbieWow.com. But here's where the problem lies. Now, regardless of whether you think that employee should make more or less, it's a free market system, which means that supply and demand should really dictate in a free market system how much you're worth. It's a reason why a surgeon makes so much money. There's only a handful of surgeons and it's in demand. If there's a flood of surgeons, the demand and the wages for that surgeon would go down. The same way is for fast food. If there is a supply problem, meaning that there's more demand for that position than there are people to fill it, the wages will go up. Bottom line, this is a problem you see in our economy, especially with the globalization, with things like Odesk and freelancing widely available, not even talking about the offshoring of manufacturing, but things like telemarketing. Why, as a business owner, would I hire a telemarketer in the United States and pay them $15, $20, $30 an hour when there's a person right across the border, whether it's Mexico, Canada, or another country, that can do the job just as well remotely for a fraction of that cost? So that's supply and demand. There's a higher supply of telemarketers, which means that the price per paying a telemarketer comes down. So the same idea is in fast food. Luckily, fast food is something you can't really outsource. Now I can understand if they bring in computers to do the ordering, but at the end of the day, someone is going to have to be there to put together that hamburger or put together whatever that meal is. Now here's where it really hurts the economy. Not only is it hurting those individuals, it really hurts these small businesses, because any mandate increase would actually not hurt the major corporations because they generally find loopholes with the amount of lobbying dollars that they put into the system. It really hurts their competition, especially their competition, especially their competition, especially their competition. Competition is what keeps these prices high and low. If you get rid of all these other restaurant chains, that burrito shop on the corner, I'm not talking about these major corporations. I'm talking about these people that own 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 establishments. My friends, the Micachado group in Las Vegas, own the Raising Cane's chains. I think they own about 9 of them now, but they're getting hit especially hard. When you have thousands of locations like McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King's, Chipotle, or any of these other major chains, you can get around these things because you have the resources to do that. These smaller guys don't have as many resources. So now they're having to pay for extra time and effort for these employees just to learn the rules. And then they have to pay penalties or extra work on top of it. Now, going back to the employees, I agree that they should be getting more than $7.50 an hour.
Yeah, I'm in this bitch with terror. Got a head full of stacks, better grab an umbrella. I make it right, I make it right. I'm in this bitch with terror. Got a head full of stacks, better grab an umbrella. I make it right, I make it right. Make it rain on them hoes, I make it right. I make it right, I make it rain on them hoes, I make it right.
Because the living expense has drastically increased in the last decade, really the last 40 years. The wages have stayed stagnant, at least for the last decade, while the price of every other thing has gone up. Just in the last year alone, food prices have gone up 19%. Over the past 3 years, they've gone up over 47%. That's 50% more for that banana that you're buying in the store. This is where inflation hits. So that dollar used to buy you $1 worth of food items. Now it only buys you 75 to 50 cents worth of the same items. So how are you expected to live if the price of goods, whether it's gas, food, or living, is going up exponentially while your wages are stagnating? Now, I also agree that these employees don't need to physically be working there. It's their choice. They can go and choose to educate themselves or even just get a new job or start their own business. Nothing's stopping them at the moment from doing that. But as long as they're going to be working there, they have to understand that supply and demand is really what dictates those rules. Now, every time that the federal government comes in and raises the minimum wage, all it does is hurt the system as a whole. Obamacare did that. Whether you're for or against it, there's a lot of good things that Obamacare does. I completely agree with not getting rid of, lifetime deductibles, lifetime caps. Those are all great things that were in this bill. Also, not being able to deny someone coverage because of a pre-existing condition. I think these are things that we can all agree are good. But there's a lot of things in that bill that really struggle and put a grasp on an individual employer, especially the 30-hour-a-week minimum. So what we're seeing is people are actually getting their hours cut, which means not only are they not getting an increase on the hourly wage, they're getting less hours. So their paychecks are getting smaller while the cost of living continues to go up. This is where the problem really arises. And mandating that is not going to fix the problem, because all it does is push inflation even further. If that employee gets $10 an hour because it's mandated by the state, remember, now that employer has to pay the taxes and subsidies on top of that are mandated. So they're really paying now $17 or $18. Well, where does that money come from? It comes from the customers, which means they have to inflate their prices, which means now all their goods and services have now been inflated, which means that it's now more expensive for everyone to get those goods and services. So it really harms the system as a whole. Now, I understand that this is a very debatable issue. There's a lot of people on both sides. Now, what I do agree with is the right for people to unionize. This is a free market system balanced over going against big business. Big business does get out of control. I'm just saying that government's not the person that should be regulating it. It should be unionization and actually binding of the little man together to form a bigger entity. Tell me your comments below and let me know what you think.